Says it's recording, so let's go.
Right.
um, Man, I feel like I haven't done a podcast in forever too. I've been like recycling old ones.
It's been a while for me too.
Harness my chi, not be all frustrated and flustered that the Zoom call almost didn't launch. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do this well. What is up, you lovely listener? Welcome to another episode of Oversharing. As always, I am super pumped to have this interview with you today and share this content with you today. Our guest is the president of social media. Holy shit, Mikhail. I'm going to Oh, man. I'm going to start that over. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, good.
This is the first human interaction I've had since coronavirus. So I'm just kidding.
I haven't left my house in 2 weeks, so right there with you.
Fuck, dude, that's so crazy. All right. What is up, you lovely listener? Welcome to another episode of Oversharing. As always, I am super pumped to be sharing this content with you today. Our guest is actually the founder of Akvile. She's an expert in Facebook ads, Instagram ads, etc. She's a mom, a wife, a speaker, an author, and she's also been published in USA Today, Ad Age, and eMarketer. I'm excited to talk about everything that we're going to cover today, from marketing your business during an era where we can't leave our homes, in addition to how to stay productive if you do have to work from home, and maybe we'll get a little insight on parenting as well too. So before I speak too much, let's invite Akvile to overshare. How you doing, Akvile?
Hey, Mikhail, good to be back. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
doing pretty well, all things considering. How are you?
I'm doing really well too. I'm wondering now if I should just keep the fumble of the introduction that I had the first time. What do you think?
Why not? Just be candid. That's what podcasts are about. They're better when they're authentic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that we've had a chance to I think this is our third conversation together now, which I'm really excited about. But I think some of the listeners may not know who you are yet. And since we've last talked, I've started asking our guests, what they were like in high school. And I actually don't know that about you. So can you give us a little insight to what you were like in high school?
Good question. I'm still who I am today, but I would say a more improved and less. I was a wallflower basically in high school. Throughout my whole childhood, I had terrible stage fright. I was always behind the scenes. I was afraid to speak up. I was a pleaser. I am still to an extent, but I've learned the power of no over the last few years. Especially being a business owner, you have to say no sometimes to things. But yeah, I was goofy. I was a goal getter. I was always trying to do all the AP classes and always trying to just stay on top of stuff. So I was kind of a bookworm too, but yeah, I'm much less of a wallflower after high school.
What were some of your favorite subjects when you were in high school?
Oh, math.
I guess that's good in your field.
And art. I use both sides of my brain, which is why I love doing advertising too. But I was really into art and math. I was a math tutor, and one thing I never thought I'd be doing for work is math related stuff. So on top of advertising and the creative aspect, also doing financials and doing a bunch of math never thought I'd be in this position today, honestly.
One thing that I remember from one of our conversations is that you used to DJ. Is that something that we can talk about?
Absolutely. Did start in high school, so there was that.
You did or didn't start in high school?
I did start in high school. I was about 15.
Okay, perfect. So what was that like? I kind of want to learn a little bit about, what you were spinning, what pulled you to do that in the first place, and do you still do it today?
Oh, great questions. I grew up in a musically inclined household. My mother, aunt, grandmother, everyone was a professional pianist. So I grew up playing piano, and then I migrated over to flute because I wanted to, just to preface your questions, but I migrated over to flute. I wanted to play saxophone or clarinet, and I had really bad buck teeth, and the orthodontist was like, no way to the reed instruments. So I got stuck playing flute for 3 years, which I did excel at it because if I'm doing something, I commit to it. But after that, I, really wanted to do something different that was kind of my own twist to having music in my life. And I was always into vinyl, and I finally saved up enough and bought one turntable, so I wasn't really mixing right away. And finally got two and found one on eBay really cheap when I was 15. And that's kind of where it all started. I surrounded myself with some people that went to parties, and I just really got more into the music. And I lived in Buffalo, New York at the time, so it was just a skip across the border to go to Toronto where all the really good music was, and
Mm.
started then. But I couldn't really go play at clubs being underage, so parties it was, house parties. And then I realized that I could earn some money on it. So somebody approached me when I was working at a bubble tea cafe as a manager for a few years, and he's like, "Hey, I know you DJ here and there. Do you want to come work for my event company?" Which they were doing weddings and things, and that was very different. I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I did make money, which was nice during high school and early college years. But I didn't like people telling me what I could and couldn't play and having very strict lists. But playing at weddings was fun because I did get to eat really nice food and go to parties of a different caliber.
Mm.
But and in college, I went back to just DJing clubs. I got some. I ended up getting a sponsorship at one point when I moved to Seattle from Skull Candy headphones for a brief stint. But I enjoyed playing hip hop, and then I moved over to breakbeats and drum and bass is where my heart lies. And I do still have turntables at home, but I no longer play out anymore.
Mm. So who's doing well in hip hop right now from your perspective?
Ooh, I love Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
He just, uh,
He
I'm
just,
such an old school hip hop person that like every time I listen to new stuff, but when you tell me to think of something right now, all I do is just think about what I grew up with and what I love listening to and what most of the records are downstairs.
yeah. Childish Gambino just like dropped a new album this weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I'm excited to check that out. I have a confession to make. I've heard a couple songs of his in the past, but I only recently got into DJ Quick. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm really upset that I didn't know about this like sooner, because I feel like there's a lot of like gaps I could have filled with his music in the background. But on the other
Mhm.
hand, I'm pretty pumped because now I have like this whole new library of music to listen to, and like every track that he has is just something I can get down
Good. Well, hey, it's never too late. You can
to.
backfill in.
So you mentioned that you were really excited that through DJing that you were able to like make some money. However, you didn't like people telling you what you could and couldn't play. It sounds like you were like an entrepreneur at heart, like when you were 15.
I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was 5, selling rocks that I drew on in my neighborhood. And somebody paid me $20 for a rock like this big that I drew a bunch of nature scenes on. So it started off earlier.
That's amazing. Was that from your parents, or did you just think like, I'm gonna try and sell this? I want money for whatever.
I didn't have much growing up. My mom and I emigrated to Toronto during the Cold War from Lithuania, as I think we've talked about in the past, but for
Hmm.
your new listeners. And we didn't have much growing up, so I knew my mom was working very hard and I wanted to contribute in some way. So I love to draw, and I figured, oh, free canvas outside and there's unlimited resources of rocks around the neighborhood.
Did you go like door to door selling them, or did you set up like a lemonade stand type of thing, but with rocks?
I basically laid them out near a curb and had my little like caboodle box where I kept change. And people just asked me what I was doing, and I guess word got around the neighborhood because I'd be out there out every day and just scribbling on rocks and drawing things and
That's
making
amazing. Do you ever watch
5
Shark
cents.
Tank?
Oh yeah, I love
Y-
that show.
You ever see the episode where like there was people that would just like write a note on a potato and sell it?
No, I missed that one.
Yeah,
What's
there's
that
one
about?
where they just write a note on a potato. I don't even know if it's a note or if it's just a word on a potato, and you can ship the potato. And I want to say they got like $50,000 from Kevin to like sell this thing. Yeah,
I have to look into that. I
yeah,
feel like
it's
I missed
absolutely
out on a
nuts.
big opportunity until then.
Well, I think you did it better because they probably had to pay for the potatoes, which like
Mm.
adds to overhead, whereas you were just taking the resources that were already available to you. So
I mean, I did pay for the box of Crayola crayons.
that's true. So give us a little bit of background on your business. You are running ads for some incredible brands. How long have you been doing this again?
I've been doing the work for about 12 years now, but I launched my agency in 2014, so
Hmm.
just surpassed 5 years, which pretty proud of that. Nice little milestone. But we, yeah, we've been working with mostly e-commerce brands, some events, and mobile apps for the majority of our clients.
Perfect. And you have a team of people that are working with you as well, right?
Yep, we're all remote. We're very small, but we're mighty.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you doing the creative in-house as well? Or
No, I do have a designer that we work with for some clients, but most of them have either in-house designers or people that they outsource to already.
okay, cool. So when it comes to the day-to-day work with your business, are you managing primarily strategy or are you also doing like the day-to-day optimization of the ads?
Pretty much everything, but for the day to day, I focus mostly on the larger accounts that we have, just because my company is my name essentially, and
Mm,
they usually want to work with me. So I'm in the accounts day to day, just checking in. Not that I have to for every single account, but just because I like to know what's going on.
sure. And what does your team handle if you're doing a lot of the day-to-day as well?
So we've got a web developer, we have a person that does content. So I've kind of outsourced, or not outsourced, delegated. I'm trying to get better about delegation over the last year. I've been delegating all the content out, whether it's long form, help with ad copy, just so I can focus more on strategy, creative direction, and just overall holistic marketing strategy with their other team members that the clients have, from anything from email marketing to SEO to paid search.
Perfect. And so a lot of the reason that I'm asking these questions too is obviously I don't know what we call it in the era of the coronavirus. Like, we're being forced to work from home. And I think, and you've kind of been doing this since you started in 2014, right?
Even before that, so the last company I worked for in-house, so I've been working from home and just remotely for the last 9 years almost. The last company I worked for was an event marketing company. They did marketing conferences globally. So I got to totally dive into working remotely then and just establishing my cadence with what it looks like to work from home, going from just sitting on my couch to actually setting up a home office.
That's awesome. I mean, I think even what you're saying already, like just delegating, outsourcing, things like that, are super valuable tips for anybody that's like looking to even start their business during this time or has already started one, and like how they can manage it remotely. So when you were, so you're trying to delegate some of your work. You have a team around you that doesn't do exactly what you're doing, which is, or anything close to what you're doing, really. You have the gaps that you're filling, which is rad. What was that vetting process like when you were recruiting your team?
It's been tough, honestly. Some people look really great on paper. I've hired people to do account management, but as you know, California law changed with contractors as of January 1 this year. So we've had to change how we're working with people out of state, or if they're incorporated, and trying to be more selective about people that we work with, even if that means increasing, our costs with who's managing what, just to make sure that we're compliant with the new laws, and that we do have people that have experience working on certain types of campaigns, or just a level of experience that they have, because that's important. Like your business, you want a certain level of work done for it. Same here, especially since my name is part of the business name. So I just have made some changes over the last year to find people that may cost more but can do a really great job, because in the past, when I've had some people, they've worked out either it was short term, or the level of work that I was expecting didn't quite pan out compared to how they interviewed or what they were like on paper. And I found myself going back and correcting just really small mistakes that shouldn't happen week over week. So, there's trial and error with hiring for any type of business, but you just have to go through the process and see if you can find the right people.
Sure. And where are you finding the people primarily?
Honestly, word of mouth and just people that I've met over the years. I think I was really fortunate in working in an event company, because I got to meet a lot of people through networking events. And when I went on my own, it's just been helpful to either, you and I have referred clients to one another, and we've met online. So just through events and just through Twitter, if I say I need something, there's usually somebody in the
Mm,
network that can either refer somebody that they know, or maybe it's themselves. And we just have that conversation.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Now, with the new laws in California, have you had to convert these people to like W-2 employees? I don't. So for us, for example, that's how we started, right? Or I mean,
Mhm.
they're contractors at first. Once we incorporated, then turn them into employees. But that was 2 years ago, so I didn't really have the same challenge that someone might like you might have. Was that something that you had to do with all your employees or contractors? That's cool. Nice little freeze.
Oh,
And
hello.
And we're back.
Sorry, that totally dropped off. Okay, sorry about that. Don't know what happened. To answer your question about converting people to W-2, so the people that were employees still are, but people that do exactly the work that I do when it comes to account management of advertising campaigns, those people can't be contractors because they're doing your primary service.
Mhm.
So those ones I've shifted to just working with other people that are incorporated either as individual consultants or other agencies,
Mhm.
and just because then we don't have to do 1099, especially if they're in California.
Yeah, that's a great workaround. I like that. Um, all right, cool. So you mentioned that you work with with a lot of e-commerce businesses. Right now, obviously people are a little more reluctant to go outside. A lot of brick and mortar retailers are shutting down. What are some of your thoughts on the state of e-commerce and paid media during this time around the world?
Ah, it's uncertain, right? Thankfully, our clients are still with us, and we've started having those conversations because of shelter in places going into ordinance across the country. We've had some that we're trying to not push products as much with a hard sell because with the stock market going down and with the whole COVID-19 thing going on, there's just so much uncertainty. So we I've seen some other friends that are working in advertising that have lost clients already or have disabled their advertising campaigns just to conserve budget, primarily in the travel industry. But yet there's some clients that are in the finance industry that are doing very well. And while most of ours are currently e-commerce, even though we do tend to work with a lot of travel brands, coincidentally, we don't have any right now. But some of them have manufacturing, luckily, in the US. But with people having to shelter, that we are trying to find other ways that we could keep their factories open through creating different types of products that are still relevant to what they're creating, but would make them an essential type of company rather than, if they're not essential to their communities, then they would have to shut down. Or we're just trying to think of other creative ways that they can get online and, just let people know what they can expect with their companies, if shipping delays maybe, or sign up and be in a list for when operations start back up, just so that we don't turn everything off. Because I feel like once you start scaling back, I know some businesses have to, but it kind of turns into a vicious cycle that if you're starting to scale back, and then once hopefully this is over in the next few weeks or months, but if you start back up, you're might be starting back up from zero. So I think it's important just to do some awareness campaigns and let people know that you're still around, you're still operating as a business, and just get creative with different ways that you can help your communities.
Do you see it as an advantage at all that the businesses that you're working with, or any business with an e-commerce platform, is there any advantage to the current state of like consumer behavior?
It's been interesting. I feel like I'm seeing better sales out there than like Black Friday time of the year, but a lot of people are doing discounts just to keep things afloat. But I think that it's important for us to just think out of the box right now, because nobody really knows what's going on the day to day. And I've been a little concerned week over week, but this week in general, just because it's spreading a lot quicker, and everyone's going to work from home and adjusting. So I think it's just important to just have open communication with your teams and your clients, and find creative ways that you can get online.
Sure. Have you seen any difference in the costs of impressions on Facebook, Instagram, or any other platforms?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you have, for better or for
Yeah.
worse.
They're actually all going down, at least for our client accounts. We've noticed that every single one has drastically dipped, and I'm just wondering, is that because there's more ad inventory that's opened up because some brands are pulling back on spend, maybe disabling their accounts altogether for the time being? I don't have the answer to that, but that's just what we're seeing on our end, and as a hypothesis, that could probably be it.
Yeah, for sure. As you know, like Hannah, and to the listener, Hannah's the head of paid over at Blue Light, but Hannah manages most of our paid over here. I don't get too much into the insights on the paid side, but on the organic side, the reach has improved. Just the viewership on like something like Instagram stories has improved dramatically as well too. So it's tough. I mean, I'm sure you're kind of dealing with the same thing with your clients. It's like you don't want to come off opportunistic in the messaging
Sure.
at all, but at the same time, like there is an opportunity for people to be seen a little bit more often. Um, I'm spending a lot more time on social media, unfortunately, than I. I don't know
Just
about you.
to add to that, Actually, yes and no. Like my life hasn't changed too much because I have a baby at home, so it's still like
Mm,
juggling work and a baby. But I was going to speak to that. That it's interesting that one trend we've noticed with our accounts is that we are seeing more clicks and longer times on site, though less conversions for a
mm.
lot of our clients. So I'm thinking that, oh, people are home, they're spending more time online and are browsing, but maybe they just don't want to open up their wallets at this time because things are so uncertain with the stock market.
Sure. There's a little bit more consideration at this point, right? That
Right.
like they're there, they're interested, but they're like, shit, how long is this actually going to last? And do I want to spend the money? It's kind of fun.
I'm back again. I'm wondering if I keep dropping off because I've heard rumors that internet is going to be slower for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And I read that in Europe, actually, they're decreasing like the video quality of Netflix and YouTube to
Hmm.
standard definition so that it's like preserving the bandwidth. Not a tech person, but that made sense to me.
Yeah,
um,
good times.
luckily, yeah, nice. What was I going to say? Luckily, when we are getting kicked off, it's not lasting like forever. So there's a good recovery there. Um, so like we're talking a little bit about like what's going on in the with e-commerce, with paid media, and kind of more of the technical aspects on it. And you're talking about communicating with people, with your clients, and getting a little bit more creative in how you're approaching campaigns. What are some of your opinions or strategies at this time in like adjusting the creative aspect of the campaigns, like the imagery, the copy, things like that?
With the creative stuff, we're not doing too much with assets for the time being, but ad copy is kind of where it's at, where we can relay a message. We're trying to shift for some of our clients, like we're here for you during this time. We're not doing a hard sell. It's just providing either informative ways that, we can help the community. So for instance, we have one client that a lot of their products are purchased by people in the medical industry. So we're just trying to come up with ways how to provide this product that provides comfort to these medical professionals during this time because they're on the front lines. They're dealing with most of it at hospitals. So we're just trying to do something around just appreciating that community and just doing a lot of engagement campaigns and awareness rather than conversion campaigns. Just letting people know that, hey, we're here for you if you need us. And that seems to be really resonating with the audiences that we're targeting.
Yeah, I think for whatever reason, it seems like I don't remember a time when we ever needed to push like the sentiment of a brand. But now I feel like that's super important, that I don't like that connection between the consumers and the brands, and why they feel like, I don't know, why the brands are being a place of like community and support is really
Hmm.
interesting to see.
Yeah. Another client we have, you can purchase gifts to send to people. And same kind of angle there that we're like, hey, we're here if you need us. And the whole, I'm trying to like come up with some campaigns around social distancing doesn't have to feel so distant. You
Mm.
can still say hello and just tell me that you're thinking about them if you want to send them something small.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, when it comes to your business and everything too, I hope that all of your clients continue to thrive, and your partners, and then also your business as well too. I think over the last, how long have you been running this podcast? Like 2.5, almost 3 years. You've been a part of it every year, so it's cool to see everything that you're doing. I'm always watching from afar, and then obviously you've helped my team out a lot too. So I hope everything when it comes to your business works out really well for you.
Thank you. That's really kind of appreciated. And you too. It's been great to see you guys grow and just seeing what you're doing as well. And it's
Yeah.
awesome to just keep coming back on the podcast and chatting with you.
Yeah, I know. It's like a nice little check-in. I was sitting in the office the other day, and the irony of the fact that like we were working so hard to like get a nice office, paint the walls, put things on the walls. Like we were contemplating like changing out the carpet because it's a really terrible green. And since we're recording, or brown, since we're recording on video, like you can kind of see how
Oh.
terrible that brown is. Yeah, and like for whatever reason, like in the '80s or whenever this was a thing, like the floorboards covered with carpet was like a good idea. Um, Let me tell you that it is horrendous. And when we were hosting interviews, I was like, "Hey, do you want to work here? And they're like, yeah, of course. And then, and why would you ask that in an interview? And I was like, because our carpet is hideous. And like, it's something I was
I thought you were
honestly,
going to say that somebody called out your carpet during an interview.
no, but one,
I don't know if I want to work here. I don't appreciate the carpet.
I could understand it, but the irony of like the fact that we're like working so hard to make that happen, and now it's like I'm literally like, okay, well, maybe what if we end up having to work remote forever? Like that would be a weird thing.
Oh, I hope not. It's nice to have the option, but you have a great office, and it's nice to have your team all collaborate in one room.
I know, I miss them. Um, Speaking of like working remote and working from home, you've been doing this for quite some time. You have a new challenge and blessing with your child into this world, which is amazing. But over the years, what has been some of your best like work from home tactics to feel productive, to still get through the day? You've built an amazing business. Like that's not easy when Netflix and laundry are like right in front of you.
That's the one thing everyone asks, like, oh, don't you just sit in your pajamas and like browse social media all day and just raid your fridge? Certainly, those are benefits, but I don't partake in them too often just because I try to treat my work as if it was a regular job where I'm going to an office, minus the commute. Or I guess the commute's just from one room to another, right? But when I first started, I just sat on my couch, and I feel like being too comfortable and in a lounge-like environment that didn't boost my productivity. So, little by little, started building that home office where it went to getting a desk and then like an ergonomic chair, good lighting for doing client calls with video and sound. I do have a nice microphone, but today it wasn't working. It wasn't syncing up. You and I are just having technical difficulties today, but
You still
so I'm gonna
sound
use
really
headphones.
good. It's funny. I was thinking about that while we were recording. I was like, she still sounds really good, but I see that you're only using the Apple iPhone, so or Apple
Yeah,
headphones.
had to put my Yeti aside today, but I love that thing. So it's just trying to recreate your office environment. Add some things around that inspire productivity, whether it's pictures or I see you have some vision boards behind you. Just make sure that it's a cozy, productive environment or not cozy particularly, but where you can sit up straight, feel confident, and just be productive at your desk. And if you don't have walls, maybe create a barrier of some sort with a divider, or there's a lot of ways to get creative, but I think as long as you try to imitate your work environment, if you were in an office, I think you'll find you being much more productive that way. Plus, there's a bunch of tools that I use. If you want me to share some of
I
those, there's.
do. I do. Like that was a nice like high level overview, but I'm all about like the productivity hacks and like weird tools and journals. Please spill all the beans.
All right. So as an avid multitasker in my past life, I've been really trying to just single task over the last 2 years. And it's really helped me boost my productivity, which I have data to back that up because I use a time tracking device called Toggle. I think there's a number of them out there, but there's a free version. There are paid versions as well if you want to add your team members to it. And you can set up different tasks or clients and what you're doing. So we use that also for invoicing to see like how much time we're spending for certain clients, but also it's a nice way to just assess where you are spending your time during the day. So it's like, okay, I'm spending X time on email or phone calls, or maybe on this one client. And then you can check how much money am I making for this one project or this one client? And can I be more efficient there? Am I undercharging? So it's also nice to see if like, those days where you feel like you've been working all day, but then you're like, I didn't really accomplish anything.
I feel like that's a lot of my days. I hate to say it. It's like between calls and like kind of, putting out fires or whatever it is. I'm like, did I actually do anything? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so that tool put me in check a few years ago when I first launched my business of like, where's my day going? And that really gave me some insight into where I could optimize a little bit more because, with our work, everything's an optimization. So that's one tool I love. And then just keeping yourself accountable for your tasks and projects and just communication with your clients or with your teams. So there's a lot of project management tools out there like Basecamp, Trello, Asana. I love Trello, so I usually use that. But for some clients, we use Basecamp when there's more team members involved and we need a little bit more in terms of features. Yeah, and then I guess if you're starting a business, a quick way to take care of all your finances, there's a lot of tools out there as well, but I'm not paid by any of these tools, but we use QuickBooks just to invoice, do payroll, keep track of all sorts of things when it comes to business finances. So if you're just getting started or want to move to something more online or desktop based, that's been a really great tool for us.
So like optimizing your time and starting to like analyze where you're spending your time, is this something that like a mentor told you to do, or are you so obsessed with optimization that you're like, I want to optimize myself right now?
Uh, One of my biggest pet peeves is inefficiency. So that was just kind of a precursor to that. But I've also like read stuff over the years about, oh, you shouldn't be multitasking, you actually get less done.
Hmm.
And upon reading those, that inspired me further to just not have a million tabs open if I don't need to close out. I don't have any push notifications. I check my devices as much, as I already do, so I don't need them making me check them even more.
Hmm.
Of course, unless it's like something urgent from a client, but they know how to get a hold of me, but that rarely happens. So I check things enough, but I'm just trying to make myself less, I guess, just make myself more efficient, less kind of anxious by tabs, and just focus on the task at hand, and then I can move on to the next thing.
Absolutely. So I think something that's pretty challenging for a lot of people, and to be very frank, like last week, it was a little challenging for me to basically just get the day started. You've had a lot of practice working at home for a while now, but like for the person that is just starting to like adjust to working from home, what is the easiest way for them to get their day just started?
Get out of bed, shower, wash yourself, whatever you have to do to get started, eat breakfast if that's your thing, pour that cup of coffee or two, and just get out of your PJs and treat it like a normal work day, because once you get into that habit, that'll instantly boost your just your frame of, you know, your basically you'll know you're going to work,
Hmm.
instead of just like, oh, I can just kind of casually peruse email while watching Netflix, and that's certainly not what you want to do. Just get your work done, then do Netflix or whatever you want to do after. But um yeah, sorry, long story long. Basically
No,
get up and get ready for the day as you normally would.
you know what? It's interesting. When I started working, uh, or like started trying to building the agency, I was living with my room. I was living with my friend at the time, and she had like this downstairs, which was an office. It was like a 3-story home, but the downstairs was supposed to be an office for young professionals. And
Hmm.
even though I was working from home, I like my big thing was putting on my shoes. So like I always like to kind of get ready. I know it doesn't really seem like that right now, but like, um, but I always like to get ready, but like it's so easy to walk around the house without your shoes on. So for me, it was like I got to put on my shoes, and then I know that I'm like ready to work. So like getting ready is kind of the big thing. Like working in pajamas aren't fun. Like I'm in jeans right now. I'm sure you probably are too. I haven't
Yeah.
taken advantage of the idea of like, I don't know, taking conference calls in pajamas yet. So it's just not something I really like doing.
I
Um,
get that.
for
I mean, I'm
sure.
not gonna lie, there have been some times where I'm like professional from the top up for a video call. I'm wearing jeans today and I'm wearing shoes, but other times it's like, there may have been some yoga pants or maybe some sweatpants where I was just like, oh, it's a video call, shoot. So be ready at the top.
Yeah, exactly. So you're using Asana. You like getting out of bed, getting ready is one of those things too. But from on a day-to-day standpoint, are you creating like checklists for yourself to get done, or on a weekly standpoint?
Yes, I am a list fiend. I live and die by the list, even for personal things for work. So I'll typically have one through Trello that reminds me 24 hours ahead. It'll send me an email so I know what my important tasks are for the following day. But I also do have a physical planner. I really love, there's something gratifying about being able to highlight or cross
Hmm.
something off when it's complete. So I do that a lot for my personal stuff as well.
That's awesome. How specific does your list get?
I can make a long list of things of what I want to do, but I'm trying to get better about just doing what's necessary for today, because
Mm.
now, both my husband and I working from home and having a baby with no childcare during, shelter in place. I really have to be more diligent about what needs to be done now, in the next hour, in the next, 24 hours, and then bump things as needed. I tried to get everything done as quickly as I can, but I also want to keep my sanity.
Mm. 100%. Akvile, you always share so much like great information with us. I love it. You're always super open. I enjoy talking to you. You're so knowledgeable. I do have one last question for you today, but before I ask that question, if somebody wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
You can find me at advertise.com, or my name's a little bit complicated, but you can find me on Twitter at Akvile DeFazio.
I love that. I feel so. What are your final thoughts on working through a potential recession and shifting how
Ooh.
business is being transacted? And I realize that it's kind of a dark question, but for some reason, I'm really confident that you're going to come through and provide something super inspiring and motivational for us.
Oh, you have to be flexible and creative. I think to survive something like this, you really have to start pushing the limits on certain things and seeing how you can mold your business, either temporarily or in the long term with what's going on right now. With us and with you too, like we just have to do the best that we can with our clients and to keep feeding the funnel and showing people that you do still need marketing and advertising. Businesses will have to survive and thrive going forward. And if you have to make certain adjustments, so be it. But I'm just thinking about some of the businesses in my community that are really taking this to heart. And like, for instance, my neighbor down the street, he's a chef and just opened up a restaurant 2 months ago, and talk about a really challenging time. And now they've shifted to just doing family meal prep kits and delivering to people and just leaving it on their doorstep. And they're doing super well right now.
Mm,
I can give them a little shout out. It's Roots on Railroad in Paso.
I love
but
that.
and just some of the distilleries up here, they are now taking their byproducts and making sanitizer for people. So there's just different ways I think a lot of businesses can adjust for the time being to stay afloat, and maybe just have extra products or services down the line. It'll be interesting what transpires. I know there's a lot of dark things that are going on, and unfortunately some businesses will close, but I think there's going to be a lot of creative and really interesting things that do come out of this in the end.
Yeah, I do love that. And that was inspiring and motivational. So way to rock that one. I appreciate
Good
it.
question though. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. To the listener, thank you so much for your time and attention. We loved it. And maybe for the viewers, I think I'm going to put this up on YouTube for the first time. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you for doing that with me, Akvile. If you love the episode, we would dig a 5-star review, or you can hit that like button on YouTube. And if you didn't like it that much, feel free to stick it to us, but subscribe anyway, because we're going to have a lot of incredible people just like Akvile back on the show. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mikhail.